Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Suburban Driving with Miranda. Now you see me standing here between two vehicles that are different and yet very much the same. So this week we are going to put them head to head. This is the all-new Mazda Cx-30 Turbo and the all-new Lincoln Corsair. Let's check them out. So I'm going to start this little comparison drive with the Lincoln Corsair. So I have the 2021 Corsair, which is what I'm in right now. It is the brand new entry-level luxury crossover for Lincoln. And what I'm going to bring it up against today is the all-new Mazda Cx-30 Turbo. Now I know what you're thinking, they're not in the same price range, and that's true. But everything else about them is extremely similar, which is why I think they deserve the comparison that I'm giving them. So let's start with the engine on this thing. So it has a 2-liter inline-4 that's good for 266 horsepower. It has a CVT transmission, which thankfully drives like a regular transmission, so it shifts even though it doesn't have any gears, so it feels really nice. And it drives really well. It drives heavy. I don't necessarily feel the power that it has. You know, it's a crossover, so we're in a smaller a CUV. So while I have a decent amount of trunk space in the back, I actually have more cargo space than I do in the Mazda, about 300 liters more in the back, but that's really based on the shape. Like when you park these things side by side, they're very, very similar in size. They are similar in their clearance off the ground. The door openings are the same. The back seat, pretty much the same. My kid's been in both. Same size?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like one has a huge amount of passenger space over the other, just one has more cargo space, and that's really 100% to do with the shape of the roof. So the Mazda goes down in the back like this, and the Lincoln's a little bit higher up. So let's go back to how this thing drives. I like the Lincoln. It feels very comfortable. It feels very plushy. It eats up all of the road imperfections. It's not super bouncy. It's not very sporty either. But again, in a car like this, you're not really looking for that. However, the plus side to a crossover is that they drive very much like cars. Most are based on car platforms. Just like the Cx-30 from the Cx-3, the Mazda 3, it's a car chassis essentially that's at the heart of it. So the Corsair drives very much like a car, not an SUV, which is nice. So if you're looking for that extra space, you're looking for the all-wheel drive, and you're looking for that little added bit of ride height, but you don't like how it feels to drive an SUV and it's too big and it's too high up and it's too much, then a crossover is a really good combination of all those things, and a compromise is the word I'm looking for, not a combination. It is a decent compromise without actually compromising anything, because you're getting all those things that you want, but in a vehicle that drives like a car. In terms of pickup, this thing's pretty good. It's been fairly decent on gas, truth be told. I'm averaging about 11.6 liters per 100 kilometers right now, which is pretty good, and I've done mostly city driving. I haven't really touched the highway this week until now, and I'll talk about the Mazda when I'm in it. But let me talk a little bit about the interior right now as well. So instead of me just sitting here stationary talking to you about it, while I am speaking, you are going to see all the things that I talk about. So now, of course, this is, like I said, Lincoln's entry-level luxury CUV. So I think it's important maybe to start with the price here. So this comes in, as I'm driving it, around the $60,000 mark. So it starts at $51,000, this particular model. So it has everything. It has all the bells and whistles. It has the two-tone dash. It's got really nice, like, baseball tan leather. It's got the dual color stitching. I have a really nice chrome accented touchscreen here. I have push button shifter, which I really don't want to talk about because I hate it. There's no shifter. It's just these little buttons that you have to push to go park, reverse, neutral, drive. I don't know why they couldn't just give me a column shifter. I get that they want to free up space here because it's not a big vehicle, so it is nice that I don't have a shifter taking up this this middle space. I've got storage, I've got USB plugs, I have 2 really nice decent sized cup holders, and I've got a really nice deep storage bin here where the shifter would be. But at the same time, like, just give me the column shifter, and I prefer that much more than having to push buttons to make the car go. It's not for me. Anyways, HVAC really clear and concise. I have heated, cooled seats. Owen's got heated seats in the back. Really easy to hook up Apple CarPlay. Very, very simple system. It's a small screen, but it's very easy to read, and it's very easy to navigate, and it's not something that I had to think about. I love the digital gauge cluster. I like the little animations for your different drive modes. So I've got slippery, deep snow, sport, normal, and eco, I think, or saving mode is something I've called. I really like the toggles on the steering wheel, oddly enough. They're kind of like little gaming toggles to change the music and your volume and go through your menu on the screen. And I didn't think that I would like them. I thought they were odd and they felt weird. But the more that I've lived with them, the more I like them. The one thing that I hate is on the steering wheel, right where I would place my thumb, like you can see kind of here, I'm going to place my thumb in that section on the, like just above 9, so 10 p.m. on the steering wheel clock. They put the button for the voice activation. So if you're aggressively turning and you're in your 10 and 2 stance, you will likely push that button. So I have a few times where I've gripped the steering wheel rather tightly to turn it, and my thumb has hit the button. So I have to be aware to not place my thumb on the button, which is annoying, but I'm assuming if you had the car, you would live with it. You would learn not to do it, or learn where to place your hand where you wouldn't get into trouble that way. So overall, I mean, it's my first time in the Corsair, so I've never driven this vehicle before, and it is new for Lincoln. Corsair used to be a car, like, decades ago. Not quite sure why they brought it back as a CUV, but, you know, CUVs are the cool thing now, so it makes sense. I like it. It is luxury. I'm very comfortable. The seats are very comfortable. They're adjustable in like a million different ways up here. I can even like lengthen the seat under like the back of my knees, so if I had super long legs and I wanted support under my knees while I was driving, I could push the seat all the way out, or even like one side out further than the other. You can move them individually, which is very strange, but it's there for you. And nicely bolstered, hold me in really well. I'm assuming the back seat is comfortable.
Yeah.
Perfect. He says yes. Lots of room back there again. Not starved for space, but very similar to the Mazda Cx-30, which is why, despite the price difference, because you're going to see when I talk about the Mazda, these are at very different price points. So you need to understand that the comparison here isn't based on price. It's based on the performance that they give, the engine that they offer, because they are pretty much identical, save for the turbo, and the fuel economy and the interior space. So that's why I've put them beside. Yes, Lincoln is entry-level luxury. Mazda Cx-30 is more just entry-level. I wouldn't necessarily consider it luxury, but if you're in the market for a vehicle this size, that drives this way, has this engine, has this feel, then you may cross-shop with a company like Lincoln if you're looking for something a little bit more upscale. So you need to understand what you're weighing against. So let's check out that Mazda Cx-30 then. So now I'm in the 2021 Mazda Cx-30 Turbo. So as I said with the Lincoln Corsair, this is a compact crossover. This is not luxury. It is not an entry-level luxury vehicle as the Lincoln was. However, it offers the same performance. So this is a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine that pushes out about 250 horsepower. So you're getting the same type of performance that you would with the Corsair. This one has an 8-speed transmission, where the Corsair had the CVT. But essentially, if it's the drive that you're worried about or the engine size, then this is going to offer you that same feel. However, it is actually a much different feel. So I really, really like how this little thing drives. It's so much peppier. It picks up speed more quickly. It feels lighter. It feels more engaged. I feel like it's just got more life than the Lincoln, and maybe because it's a little bit smaller. So this has about 300 liters less in terms of cargo space behind the second row in the trunk. But otherwise, you park these things side by side and they are pretty much the same size in terms of like roof height and length. The Lincoln looks a little bit wider than the Mazda, but again, that could just be down to design and how the exterior looks on each car. But when it comes down to drive, I definitely prefer the Cx-30 over the Lincoln. I like the comfort of the Lincoln. I like how I feel inside it. I like the luxury of the Lincoln interior, the materials used, the design of the dash, the way the buttons are. This is, again, I'll talk about the interior now. This is a typical Mazda interior, so it's pretty bare bones. There's not a whole lot going on in the center stack. I have a nice big screen up top, but the middle is really quite bare. And that's just typical Mazda. So I don't have that in the Lincoln. I have a lot more, I've got more buttons and I have more things to press and I've got more levels and more material and there's wood grain and there's leather and there's all kinds of things. And that isn't the case here in the Cx-30. But the Cx-30 also costs a good $20,000 less than the Lincoln. So starting price for the Cx-30 is around $24,000. I'm sitting in a model that costs $36,000. So even that, based on the $60,000 Lincoln that I was just in, sure, okay, the performance levels are the same, but if you look at price and amenities and what you're getting, essentially the same size car, that trunk space, yeah, because of the shape, like I said, the Mazda has a bit of a more angled roof, so you're losing that 300 liters. I would be hard pressed to spend that extra money just to get that extra bit of glam inside the Lincoln. So I can see both sides, and I can see where the appeal is for the Lincoln, and I definitely see the appeal for the Mazda. I think there's a buyer for each, obviously, just as there is for every single car. But for me personally, if I had the two lined up side by side, I would choose the Cx-30 Turbo, hands down. Just in terms of its interior look, of how it drives, its exterior look. And it is the perfect size for me. I don't miss that 300 liters of trunk space at all. My son has plenty of room in the back seat, just as he said. In the Lincoln, he's got the same thing in the Mazda. He doesn't feel cramped back there. And it works as a crossover and is extremely fun to drive, as are most Mazda. And the Turbo just adds that little bit of extra pep to the 2.5 liter that it really needed, because before it was kind of lacking, and that Turbo just pushed it over the edge and made it absolutely fantastic to drive. So this is the 2021 Lincoln Corsair. It is an all-new, brand new entry-level luxury crossover for the Lincoln brand. And I gotta say, I really like the exterior. It's kind of boxy, it's kind of old school. I really, really like the body-colored grille in front. I think that completely makes the look of the vehicle. Everything else about it is pretty simplistic. I love the Corsair underneath the side mirrors. I think that's really classy. The lights are really nice. It's not too beefy. The bumpers aren't too big. The black wheels look amazing with the white as well as the black roof. And all in all, it comes together as a really sophisticated, high-end looking crossover. And well, for the price, it should look like that. But all in all, the design of this thing is really quite nice, and it falls in line with the rest of the Lincoln family. You've got the huge Lincoln symbol up front, Lincoln in the back. It screams luxury in the way it looks, and I can imagine that if it's another color on the body, that it would look just as good. Though I have to say, I think I like the white the best, especially that front grille. So at this stage, you guys have heard me talk about Mazda exterior and interior more than enough, but let's do it again. So here is the Mazda Cx-30 Turbo. Now, for all intents and purposes, this is a Cx-30. Nothing else changes save for that turbo badge in the back. Just like the Mazda 3 all-wheel drive turbo, you are looking at the same exterior that you would with a regular engine that does not have a turbocharger in it. So there's really not much different about it. Do I like the way it looks? I definitely do. The Cx-30 takes the Cx-3 and jacks it up just a little bit more, makes it a little bit more off-roady. I really actually like the plastic clad wheel wells on this thing. Some might say they're a bit garish and a little bit large, but I like it. It almost makes the wheels look that much bigger, especially against this red. And I know we see so many Mazdas in this red, but it is their signature color and it suits the vehicles so well. That Kodo design screams through in the front and the rear, and it's just a really good looking little compact crossover. All right, guys, well, that's been it for me. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed the Corsair and the Cx-30 Turbo. They both have so much to offer. Don't forget either one of them. If you're in the market for a compact crossover, you will not regret looking at either of them. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, you can hit me up at Miss Miranda L on Twitter or Instagram, Miranda Lyston on Facebook.com, or drop a comment below. See you guys back next week. Enjoy the weather.